Hi, Melina here, and this past month, like the month of January, and I think maybe some of it was the end of December, I think it's all just January, I accumulated probably more comics than I have, like, ever, so yes, we're gonna get into that. Okay, so I usually divide it into different sections. There's single issues, comic trades / graphic novels, and manga. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so for the single issues, okay, I usually keep in order with publishers, so that's pretty much what I'm going to do here, but these first handful of single issues, they're just going to be cheap ones, like ones that were either $1 or $2, and then with my discount were even less. So the first one I have here is Wonder Woman Rebirth issue 15. I think I have, like, the first Rebirth issue of Wonder Woman, and, I haven't caught up since then, but, I loved this cover, and it was cheap, and so I picked it up. Then here is the, exclusive variant cover of the Rebirth of Justice League vs. Suicide Squad issue 1, and it was $1, and, yeah, so it has Harley Quinn and, Wonder Woman on it, so I needed to get that. Next, we have what was also $1. This is Faith issue 3. I have issues 1 and 2 of both series that were run of Faith, and this is, I think, for the newest one of hers, so I can keep going with that. Then from Black Mask, which is a company that I think I only have one comic from, which is Young Terrace, but now I have this, which was also $1. This is Kim and Kim, and I've heard lots of good things about this because I believe it's an LGBT comic, like I believe Kim and Kim are together, and that they fight crime, and it looks very grungy, kind of like Tank Girl, so I've been interested in picking it up, and if I like it, maybe I'll look for the trades of it. So there you go. And out of the, I have a couple of X-Files comics, and out of the Origins ones, I mainly wanted this one because I loved the cover, because it's Fox when he's like a little kid, and then him as an adult, and I wanted to see his side of like the origins for the longest. They made YA books kind of focusing on them like as an origin story, and I want the one that revolves around Fox because I just want to see like stuff that like of how he got into like aliens and of all the stuff that happened with his sister, and I want to explore more into that. And this one was cheap, so I picked it up. There is only 2 single issues that I spent full price on, and that was because I really loved the cover to one, which is Hawkeye Volume 14, Issue 14. This is Hawkeye meaning Kate Bishop and not Clint, but I've always loved Kate and Clint's dynamic with each other, and I've always kind of shipped them, even though people aren't into it because of the age difference, but they released a cover with them kissing, and I love it, and I have no idea what's going on in the story because I mainly started just reading Clint's arc and not Kate's, but I needed the cover if nothing else. And next, I have, for those of you who don't know, my favorite comic book character of all time is She-Hulk, and they started a new run where they just called her Hulk because of spoilery stuff that happens in Civil War. So I started getting those, and I don't know if I only have the first issue or if I have the first 2, but the earliest we had was issue 3 to my store, so I picked it up because it just felt wrong realizing there's so many issues of She-Hulk out that I don't own, so got her, and it's a gorgeous cover. I freaking love Jennifer. So those are the single issues. Then real quick, it's not technically a comic, but I didn't know if it could fit into my regular book haul, and it's just something that I wanted to mention that I picked up and spent a pretty penny on, and that is the Legend of Zelda Hyrule Historia. This is kind of a guidebook to the entire Zelda franchise, and it has like timelines and artwork and kind of how everything developed throughout the years. And when we got it traded in, I was like, yep, I need this, and it has one of my favorite things ever, which is concept art. So, definitely going to go through that. And it's from Dark Horse, which is a comic company, so it kind of applies. Next, I have trades. which, this is where it gets excessive, because it's the most trades that I've ever bought, but we had so many that I was interested in that were cheap. A majority of them are Marvel, because Marvel's my favorite publishing house, so we're just going to start there. The first one that I have here is a hardcover that I think I only spent like $4 on, of Doctor Strange. This is volume 1. I plan on watching the movie sometime early this year, especially because they're going to bring everyone together for Infinity War, and I still haven't seen Doctor Strange, and it feels wrong, and I feel like I'll love it, because I love Benedict Cumberbatch, and I love almost all things Marvel, so I figured if I'm really into, like, a Doctor Strange mode after seeing the movie, I have a new, fresh trade to kind of continue the obsession. Next is also a hardcover trade from Marvel, and it helps me segue into Star Wars. I got an excessive amount of Star Wars comic trades because I've always wanted to kind of delve into that part of Star Wars, because I love Star Wars, I love comics. I've been wanting to get into them, but I didn't really know where to start, so I got 3 Star Wars comic trades. The first one being The Force Awakens. This is basically the Force Awakens movie on Episode 7, just in comic form, and it is gorgeous. And now I'm so in love with it that I've seen that we have, like, ones from the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, and slowly I'm going to collect the tins of the movies, the comic versions of the movies, and the novelizations. So let's see how long that takes to get all of those for all of them. These next few are not hardcover, but they're still Star Wars. This is Chewbacca, and I think this is just, like, kind of like a one-shot, like this is just the only trade in the entire stories in here. And yeah, it's about Chewbacca getting stranded on this planet where there isn't many people, and the only people that are there are kind of hostile to him, and there is this teenage girl who kind of helps him, and it sounds like a weird reasoning, but, in the book Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, the best friend of the main character, she writes Star Wars fan fiction about Chewbacca and Rey being in, like, a romantic relationship together, and the plot to this kind of reminded me of that, and it's what made me want to pick it up. Plus, it was really cheap, and the art is very pretty. So, I picked that up. And then the last one was the main kind of, storyline arc of Star Wars comics that I've always wanted to pick up, and that is Poe Dameron. This is Volume 1, Black Squadron. Can't say that word apparently easily. And, people always said that this gave him kind of the character arc he deserved, because he doesn't really have that much screen time in The Force Awakens. So I picked up this first one, and if I like it, I will maybe invest into getting the other ones that are more pricey right now. And then last for Marvel here, I have Miss Marvel Volume 1, No Normal. I've read, like, the first 4 or 5 volumes of Miss Marvel. She's my 3rd favorite comic book character of all time. I love Kamala so much, and I have a giant hardcover version of Volume 2. I recently, last month, well, in December, bought Volume 3, so now I finally have Volume 1, so I have the first 3 down, and I'm slowly collecting through them. This is probably one of the best, newer to me comic series that I've picked up in the past few years, so I would definitely recommend it. And it's the only one so far that I think I've actually read. And then the last Marvel one we have here is Hawkeye versus Deadpool. I have one of the single issues, and the entire story arc is in this one thing. So I think I might get rid of that single issue, I'm not sure, but I love Hawkeye, I love Deadpool, and this is their crossover issue. And it also has lots of Kate Bishop in it, so that's always a plus. And, okay, so I have 5 left. From Dark Horse, I have Sin City Volume 2 by Frank Miller. This is A Dame to Kill For. I read Volume 1 of Sin City last year, and it was one of my favorite comics that I read last year. I need to kind of make a video of all the best comics I read in 2017, because I read quite a few good ones. I read that one in February, so I bought this one to read in this month for this February, and I think that I'll just continue the trend and slowly make my way through the Sin City series. And there's also a movie for this one, which I wanted to see because it has Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Lady Gaga, and hopefully I love this just as much as I love the first one, even though I know it doesn't have the same characters that I liked. Then last time that I got a bunch of comics, I got from Dollar Tree by Ray Bradbury. I got Something Wicked This Way Comes, and I mentioned that they also had the Martian Chronicles, but that I could only get one at the time. So I went back eventually and got the Martian Chronicles. I've skimmed through it and it looks so good, and if I read this and I like it, I will eventually spend time reading the book and obtaining the book and all that stuff. So that's here, and it's, I don't even know what publishing house it's from. It's like just one that publishes graphic novelizations of popular novels. Next here, I have one that I've been wanting for quite some time, and this is Afterlife with Archie. This is just the first volume. I have like the first 2 or 3 issues, but I recently gave issue 3 to my sister because she wanted to start collecting them because she got into Archie because of Riverdale. This is basically everything, like all the characters and stuff that you love with Archie, but during the zombie apocalypse. And what I've read of it, I've been in love with. I love all of the Archie comics, and when they do different world things, and the art is a much more grittier style than the normal Archie comics, so I really loved those. And the last 2 comic trades I have here are from Image, because I really appreciate Image too. And the first one that I have here is, so the first one I have here is Sex Criminals Volume 2, and I read Volume 1, I think, last year or the year before, and I loved it. It was so weird, but so, like, endearing, like, oddly. Like, the characters are really great, and the story, it's basically about these 2 people, Susie and John. I forgot his name for a second, because it's been a little while. And essentially, when they have this power, this ability of when they orgasm, they can stop time. And they use that ability to rob banks together. And it sounds so weird, but it makes sense when you read it, and the art's good, the writing is awesome, and it's hilarious and sweet and weird. But I've been wanting to pick up this one from my job for a while, because this one is actually signed by the writer. So, yeah, it's signed by Chip Zdarsky, and I'd been wanting this one for a while, and I can finally continue with the series. So, yes, it's rad, and I had to unwrap it because it's in this, like, protective wrap thing because it's signed, so it's special. And the only one, the last one that I have here, that I paid full price for, and it's probably, like, the first time in a while, like, since I bought Saga, which is also Image, that I spent full price on something is, this. This is plastic. This is one of those ones, like, where it's not a series, it's just, this is the entire thing in just this one comic trade, and this one is just as weird, if not weirder, than Sex Criminals. This is about a retired serial killer who is just living in a trailer with his girlfriend, going town to town and living life, and once he fell in love with this woman, he decided that the serial killing life wasn't for him and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden somebody kidnaps her, her name's Virginia, and they kind of start messing with this guy and, like, being like, oh, we have your girlfriend and stuff, which already sounds really addicting and stuff. The thing that makes this weird is that his girlfriend, Virginia, is not a real person. She is a sex doll. So, it sounds weird, but it's basically him just trying to get her back and going back to a life of murdering people to save, like, the thing he loves. And the art is really cool, and it sounds weird, and even though people are like, what the hell is this? I've heard nothing but good things by the people who have read it, so yeah. That's about it. I apparently have a lot of comics to read now. The one that I definitely know I'm going to get to this month, though, is A Dame to Kill For, because like I said, last February I read the first Sin City, and so this February I want to read the second Sin City. Okay, the last section that I usually save for the end, because usually I only have like one thing to show for the manga section, but this time I have quite a few, because apparently I just want really excessive with all things comics. So I have quite a few here, and we're just going to get through them. The first one I have here is The World's Greatest First Love, Volume 1, and this is about this boy who falls in love with his boss, I think, at like a publishing company, and his boss is like a guy, and it's like a gay romance, and one of my coworkers said that he heard that this was really good, so I picked it up. It was really cheap. Then one that I seen that one of my fellow co-workers had on hold, but that I really wanted, and I was like, oh, and then when we had to put all of our stuff off of hold, she didn't purchase, so I ended up picking it up, is Death Note, the Black Edition, Volume 2. I have Volumes 1, 4, and 5, so now I just need 3 and 6, and I will have all of them, and for right now, I just need 3 to fill in the gap, and then just kind of binge read through them. This one is a little bit rougher than the ones I have, like, you can tell it's used, but, I'm so happy to have it, and now I can continue with the series, and after I read, these 2 volumes, I can continue reading, watching the episodes that correlate with those in the manga, in the anime. Then, what else do I have here? We had a fairy tale event at my job for the anime and manga fairy tale. And there we gave out a couple free things, so I took some of those for myself. We got this, which is kind of more, it looks like a comic book, because it's like really thin and stuff, but it's still manga style and kind of focuses on these characters from the manga, for fairy tale. This is like the back of it. And, so I've been really getting into fairy tale and watching it as of lately, so I wanted to pick that up. And then these I thought were really cool because they are kind of like little preview samplers. This one is for Kodansha Comics. Don't know if I pronounced that right, but this, I believe, is the same company that publishes Attack on Titan. And I see that also one of the things featured here is a silent voice, which so many people that I watch that read manga on YouTube, they said that's really good, so I'm gonna have a fun time flipping through the previews and stuff of this. And then this is shoujo, which, for those of you who aren't familiar with those kinds of terms, it's kind of more of a rom-com, like, romance-y type manga. So I'm excited to flip through both of those and see if there's anything that I want to pick up after that. Next, I had been hoping and checking every day to see if we got volume 1 of this manga traded in, and eventually we finally did, and it was like $2, and that is volume 1 of One Punch Man. I read this little free preview sampler thing that you can download off Comixology, the app, and I really liked it, and so now I finally have volume 1, and if I get into it, then I'll start reading it and watching the anime. So there's that. And then the only manga on this list that I have read already is Tokyo Ghoul Volume 1. I read this 2 years ago, and I checked it out from the library, and it was a recommendation from my little cousin, which is really disturbing because this is probably one of the most messed up manga I've ever read, but it is really good. It's about ghouls, obviously, and yeah, if I reread this and kind of feel the urge to pick up the second one, I definitely will. But I was really sad that I don't own it because I love these editions. They're so pretty. And yeah, that's about it. I did the outro earlier because I had forgotten to include the manga, but yeah, like and subscribe and all that jazz.